So if you've ever found yourself standing in front of your home thermostat, wondering what the heck all those buttons do, you know, you're not alone. Today, I'm going to give you a simple, friendly overview of what's going on with your home heating and air conditioning system. I'm not going to have a bunch of technical mumbo jumbo, a bunch of technical terms, just some straightforward, simple things you need to know just to help you understand a little bit better what's going on. Not for doing big DIY projects or things like that, but just so that if a technician has to come out or you think there's something wrong, you can feel a little comfortable talking to someone about what's going on with your system. So stick around to the end and I'll give you a quick primer on how to change your furnace air filter, which is the most common maintenance task you'll need to do. This is Opa, watching What's Up Opa, where we try to give you some simple home tips and some grandfatherly advice once in a while. So hopefully you'll find this of some value for you. Okay, so first of all, we'll get one term out of the way right away. That's the acronym HVAC. What that stands for is heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. And that's the common term you hear whenever they refer to a home's heating and air conditioning system. So let's start with the furnace. That's the piece that everybody's probably most familiar with. It's what, in most homes, keeps your home warm. And it also forms half of the air conditioning system if you've got central air conditioning. Most furnaces will use either natural gas, electricity, or fuel oil as a fuel to generate the heat for the heating system. In a minute we'll go outside and I'll show you the other half of the air conditioning system. That's the compressor that sits outside the house. And then, of course, the third piece of this whole puzzle is the thermostat. That's the actual controls for the system. And we'll talk about those in a little more detail here in a few minutes. Because there's a lot of different kinds, but they all share some very similar properties. Okay, so here we're looking at the furnace in my house. In my house, it's located in a closet in my utility room. It could also be located in your basement. It could be located in your garage. There's even some cases where they've got it mounted sideways. It's up in the attic of your house. So all I can show you right now is mine, which is kind of a typical arrangement. So if we start at the bottom on mine, there's a couple of lines you can see. That white line is a drain line coming from the air conditioning coil. So that basically is condensate, because when you cool off the air, just like having a cold glass of lemonade on a hot muggy day, you get condensate. So this drain is to collect that, and it puts it down into a drain in my crawl space. The black insulated pipe and the small copper pipe next to it are for the air conditioning. They take the refrigerant, the fluid that removes the heat from the air, goes outside to the compressor where it gives up the heat, and then it comes back in to the house here. And then this black iron pipe with the red shutoff valve is my natural gas line. This is a natural gas furnace. These two white lines here, these are vents. This is a newer, higher efficiency furnace, so the combustion gas, from when the natural gas burns, there's a little fan that drafts that outside. There's a couple access hatches for the servicemen to get access to it. The main part in behind here that is of concern is the main blower of the furnace, which blows the air throughout the house, pulls the air out of the return lines, pushes it through the furnace, and then it goes out to the supply lines as either hot air or cold air, depending on if you're heating or cooling. Coming up above here, on my furnace, I've got a thicker type of air filter, so that's where that goes. We'll talk about how to change that in a minute. Off to the side, there's a little electrical switch, and underneath that cover, there is a fuse. If something goes wrong, that fuse can blow to remove power from the furnace. And this also gives you a handy way with that switch to shut off the furnace for servicing or if there's a problem. On my furnace, the cold air returns come in from the top, pulled by the fan. This unit here is my humidifier. Some furnaces have a built-in. The controls for that are right here. It senses the humidity in the air that's being returned from the house. You notice it's in the off position now. This is the summer, so I just turn that on in the winter time when the air is drier from being heated and it's drier outside. And that's pretty much it as far as the major parts you kind of need to know about. This is the compressor for the air conditioning unit. So that little black insulated line and the copper line, those are the same two lines that we saw that go to the furnace. And then this gray line here, this is the electrical disconnect. There's actually a set of fuses here again also that may need to be replaced if something goes wrong. But the compressor has got a fan that pushes air through it, and that fan is connected to a pump which moves the refrigerant. And then this grill you see here is essentially like the radiator in your car. This is where the heat is removed from the refrigerant as it circulates through there, and so it cools it off, the heat that's pulled out of your house, and then it's circulated back into the furnace again. All right, so third part of the system, we've talked about the furnace and the air conditioning unit outside. The third part of the system is the one most people are most familiar with. That's your thermostat. Now they come in all different shapes and sizes nowadays, from just the very basic old dial type where you set the temperature all the way up to programmable ones where you can have it on a schedule, even control it from your phone. But they've all got in common a couple key things. One is some way to adjust the set point temperature, the temperature you want the system to heat to or cool down to. The second is a mode switch where you tell it that you want to be in air conditioning mode or heating mode, or you want to have it turned off. And a lot of times you have another switch or a switch in combination with something else which will control your fan, where you either have the fan on automatic so that it will run when the furnace calls for it to. When the thermostat says, hey, I need to run heat, it'll turn the fan on, turn it off, the fan off when it's done. Or sometimes there's just a continuous run setting for the fan where you can just have the fan running all the time if you wanted to, just to circulate the air for some reason or another. So replacing the filter on your furnace is usually a pretty straightforward thing. A lot of different places they put them on newer furnaces. There's the little separate box. That's what I've got on mine here. I've got this lid just kind of clips off. I've got a little bit thicker filter. This is like an accordion style. It slides out on a couple of rails in this box, and it's got grooves on either side here. This is what it goes in on. My new filter, I have it on a subscription from Amazon. Shows up every 6 months on my doorstep. I know it's time to replace the filter, because on mine being a thicker filter, they recommend replacing it every 6 months. So I'd do mine basically April and October, right before the cooling season, right before the heating season. So it comes out. One of the things it shows here is the airflow, which in mine, it pulls the air from the cold air return with the fan pushing down that direction. So this slides in to these little rails. Easy peasy, just like that.
Every color in the rainbow should make brown.
Air direction is pointing down because that's the way the airflow is on mine. It slides in. I replace the cover. And then I usually make a note of it on a little sticky note here that I've got on the outside. But like I said, so besides the periodic changing of your air filter, there's not a whole lot of maintenance that you need to do on a furnace on a regular basis. If you can swing it and you got a furnace that's more than a few years old, it might be worthwhile looking into getting a service contract with a reputable dealer in your area, that they come out once or twice a year to give your furnace a cleaning and kind of give it a once over, make sure everything's looking all right. That's not necessarily a bad idea to head off problems. But other than that, a couple things you got to do is make sure you don't have your vents plugged by having a rug or furniture sitting over your vents. And the other thing is to listen for any strange noises. With a gas furnace, when it lights off, you're going to hear a clicking sound, a little tick, 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 which is the electric igniter lighting the flame. Very similar to the sound you hear on a gas stove nowadays, where they don't have a pilot, they got a little electronic ignition. So that's a perfectly normal sound. You start hearing screeching, a lot of rumbling, vibration, things like that. That's a whole different story. You probably got something going on and you'll want to get somebody out there to take a look at it. And then most important, if you've got a gas furnace, either natural gas or propane, if you start smelling a rotten egg smell, you need to turn off that main gas valve that feeds the furnace if you can find it. Turn off the switch or the breaker for the furnace and get some help out there right away, because you might have a gas leak and that's not something you want to mess around with. So there you have it, a little peek behind the curtain of what's going on when you push that button on your thermostat. So hopefully this has been of some help, make you feel just a little more comfortable in your own home. If you need to describe a problem or something to somebody, you can do it with a little more confidence, knowing that you're not going to sound like you have no clue at all of what's going on. So a little confidence is a good thing. So if you found this video helpful and you'd like to hear more of these kinds of videos, you can check out my video I made a little bit ago on the basics of a home plumbing system. I hope to have one coming out here before too long on the basics of your home electrical system. And like I say, if you like this, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the like button. I'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your stories about things that went on with your heating and air conditioning system. So until then, this is Opus signing off, wishing you wherever you are and whenever you're watching this, I hope that you have a great day. Thanks a lot.